परतत्वे सदा लीनो रामकृष्ण समाज्ञया यो धर्म स्थापन रतो वीरेशम तम नमाम्यम. We have been studying here Swami Vivekananda's practical Vedanta, and we tried to study some pages. Last first chapter, 8 paragraphs were studied in last 2 days. And what we saw, let me repeat in very brief, that it is a series of lectures on Chandogya Upanishad delivered in London, and after the first lecture on 5th November 1896, Swamiji was asked a question about the practical position of Vedanta philosophy, and that he has replied in these 4 lectures on Chandogya Upanishad mainly. And he said that Vedanta has been practiced first and theorized afterwards. We have seen that this theory or intellectual understanding of Vedanta is a totally different thing than practice, and the practice is not just practice, it is realization, transformation of our consciousness. And when the consciousness is transformed, automatically the Vedanta will become practical. There is a beautiful sentence in English representing the goal of spiritual life. Please note down those who are interested. Transformation of consciousness and transfiguration of personality. Transformation of consciousness and transfiguration of personality, that is spiritual life. When your consciousness is completely transformed, you are not the man which you were before. Your personality has been transformed, transfigured. So it is a different personality of now. That is practical Vedanta. And you think about Vedanta, you rationalize it, is a different matter. And that is, as Swamiji said, done afterwards. So first is this realization. And in this series, I described another thing, that in science, one day we have a theory class. Another day we have a class, theory for the practical. And then we are allowed to do the practical. So Swamiji has said that this series of lecture will be like that, the basis for practical Vedanta. And now Swamiji has divided this practical Vedanta in 3 phases. Certain things of Vedanta we can immediately apply in our life today. Their implications can be applied in our life today. That is the first phase that makes us ready for realizing Vedanta. And the realization of Vedanta is through Shravan, Manan and Nididhyasan. For you people, this is the only sadhana of Jnana Yoga. But I will tell you an interesting thing. We have studied Swamiji's Karma Yoga. And there also Swamiji has said, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan is necessary, even for Karma Yoga. So that is the sadhana. And so that is the practical Vedanta phase 2. And then the third phase is when the personality is transfigured, whatever his life is, that is practical Vedanta of the phase 3. This we have seen. And then we saw that Vedanta has been thought of not only in forest, it has been thought of in the forest. So Swamiji said not only in the forest, but by the busiest people, the ruling monarchs. And we have seen the stories of Pravaha and Jayavali of the Panchala, the king of Panchalas, how the Shvetaketu went there. That is, please, story in the 4th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad. Shvetaketu going to the king of Panchalas is in the 4th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad. And there he wants to teach the king. But the king asks him certain questions which he does not know. Then he comes back to his father and says, Father, he asked me this, you have not taught me this. Father said, I also do not know. So let us go and learn from them. And then the king tells that these secrets were known only to the kings, not to the priests. But I will teach you because you want to learn. That is one story we have heard of. And then we have seen the Bhagavad Gita. The scene is laid on the battlefield. And we have seen in the last lecture, in Mahabharata there is a prakaran called Anugita, and it can never reach the heights or the depths of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna and Krishna sitting at leisure after the war, and Arjuna is telling in the din of the war, I have forgotten what you taught me, will you please tell me again? And Krishna telling him that really if you have forgotten, it is a misfortune for the whole world. But you want to listen again, I will try, but I can never reach that height. And this Anugita does not reach that height, even nothing, 1/10 of that. That also we have seen. And then we have seen the first lesson, implication is that the final goal Swamiji states, that is Tattvamasi. This Tattvamasi is in the Aruni Shvetaketu story in the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad. By mistake that day I did say 7th. It is the 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad where this story comes and where Tattvamasi is repeated 9 times. And so that Swamiji takes as the ultimate goal of Vedanta. And then if we are that, the implication is that we should have faith in ourselves. And Swamiji here, very clearly, if you go through Swamiji's sentence, yes, I am reading on the small book, page 10, or para-wise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th para, later part of the 5th para. As certain religions of the world say that a man who does not believe in a personal God outside of himself is an atheist, so the Vedanta says a man who does not believe in himself is an atheist. So Tattvamasi declares that God is there. If you believe in a personal God outside of yourself, that is no atheism. But unless you know the real nature of God, your real nature is that God, thou art that, and so unless you have faith in yourself, self with a capital S, unless you have faith in your Atman, which is nothing but that very God, you are an atheist, because that is the real nature of God and you are not believing that. So that is an atheist. And so the first lesson Swamiji draws from Vedanta is that have faith in yourself. Reality is our own nature. Then he comes next to say that Vedanta recognizes no sin. It recognizes error. That means due to a deluded mind, we are seeing the world to be real, we are seeing our body, mind to be ourselves and real, and that causes all the mistakes in our life. So that is an error. Another point, important point Swamiji is making is that Vedanta is practical in the sense of an ideal. An ideal is always above the practical, real or practical. So Vedanta is practical in the sense it can be achieved. But it is ideal in the sense it has to be achieved. And there Swamiji has described two tendencies in human nature. The conservative tendency to seek that ideal which can be reconciled with our present work. And we have heard the story of nothing like leather, that what I like. And Swamiji gives an extreme example to impress upon us that a thief will say that stealing is the most practical thing. And we are seeing this in the world today. May not be stealing in the older sense, but much more than stealing is going on every day. And that is practical. So, that cannot be the Vedanta practical. Vedanta tells us to change ourselves. And so, it is practical in the sense we can change, we have to change, we have to achieve a higher state of life, and that is Vedanta. And in that Swamiji has described these two tendencies, that if somebody comes and preaches us, reconciling with our present nature, we like that. But never go towards that. If we go towards that, for which we have to give up our present life, if we have to give up our present ideas and ideals, man is maximum attached to his own body and more than that his own mind. He does not want to give up his ideas. Then he cannot have Vedanta. So, not that something which reconciles with our ideas, but something which takes us higher, that is practical Vedanta. And in the beginning itself, Swamiji has told the fictitious difference between the religious life and life of the world must vanish. And we these days make it vanish by making everything secular. But Swamiji is telling it must vanish by making everything spiritual. And here now, after 8 paragraphs, on page 14 of these small books, for you must always remember that the one central ideal of Vedanta is this oneness. Oneness, one reality. Not that I am separate and you are separate. Such nonsensical ideas of the Sankhyas are not tolerated by Vedanta. There is only one reality. I will tell you a funny story here. You know the Sikh religion, so called, because it is not at all separate from Hinduism. It is a branch of Hinduism. And their book, Guru Granth Sahib, what is the first line? Ek Omkar, Sat Nam, Karta Puruk, Nirbhau Nirvairu Ajuni. Now, the English people have translated it in English. And Ek Omkar they translated as God is one. God is one. He may be our Paramapita and we may all be his children. Is it same as Ek Omkar? Ek Omkar means the world is unreal. And reality is only one, which is God. We are all its appearances. When I was talking like that in Chandigarh in one of my classes, one Sikh scholar stood up and said, what is the difference between God is one and reality is one? I said, there is a difference of heaven and hell. Do not real brothers, own brothers, go to court against each other? Do not real brothers kill each other? So thinking God as the Paramapita is not going to solve our problems at all. What is the Muslim history? Killing father, brothers, everybody to become the king. God is Paramapita. So, if the reality is one and we are many, appearances are many, there is no chance of a quarrel. I was asked in one place, in a RSMA school, you say that everybody is God, then why do we quarrel? I said, I never said everybody is God. I have said one God appears as many. And why we quarrel? Because we do not know this fact, so we quarrel. The moment we do not know that we are all appearances of one reality, we quarrel with each other. And if we know that we are the appearances of one reality, there is no chance of a quarrel. There is no chance of any selfishness. So, Swamiji says, you must always remember that the one central idea of Vedanta is this oneness. There are no two in anything, no two lives, not even two different kinds of life for the two worlds. This world, a life, next world, another life. For that we want religion, for this world we want world. That is not allowed in Vedanta. You will find the Vedas speaking of heavens and things like that at first. Now let me talk what is Vedas and what is Vedanta. Vedas means Devata Jnana, the actual awareness of consciousness within matter. Agni Devata, Indra Devata, and all that, and we are separate, and if we worship them, we can go to their spheres. So this heaven idea is there in the Vedas. That is knowledge, because it is knowledge of subtler entities. It is a knowledge of consciousness trapped in matter. But when it reaches its culmination, there is only one consciousness. And immediately two things happen. If there is a God, I am separate from Him. But if there is one consciousness, I cannot be separate from Him, number one. If there is only consciousness, there cannot be anything called matter. Please remember, this is Vedanta. Separation between matter and consciousness is done for the beginner. So, the life of the world and the life of heaven are not different in Vedanta. That Swamiji is telling, you will find the Vedas speaking of heavens and things like that at first. Things like that means any future course of life. But later on, when they come to the highest ideals of their philosophy, that is Vedanta, they brush away all these things. There is but one life, one world, one existence. Everything is that one. One capital O. The difference is in degree and not in kind. This is something which Swami Vivekananda learned from Sri Ramakrishna. Now there are two ways of looking at things. The Shankaracharya way of looking at things. Devatas are unreal. So many higher consciousnesses are unreal. Only the highest consciousness is real. That is the Shankar's way of looking at things. Sri Ramakrishna says, following which Swami Vivekananda says, we are not travelling from error to truth. We are travelling from lower truth to higher truth. At present we feel the world to be real, we will behave accordingly. When we feel higher consciousness, Devata's consciousness, we will behave like that. When we rise still higher, we will behave like that. Practical Vedanta. So, this is what Swamiji's way of looking at practical Vedanta. The difference is in degree and not in kind. Animal and I am not different. The manifestation is very low in me. In man the manifestation is higher. In a sadhaka the manifestation is still higher. So it is a question of degree. That is practical Vedanta according to Swamiji. Reality is one, all are appearances, and within that appearances some are approaching the reality more or less. Swamiji has given an example. Starting from here we are going towards sun, and we are taking photographs of the sun at every stage. So every photograph will be different, but all will be photographs of the sun only. So one must remember this point. Very important point in Swamiji's practical Vedanta. The difference between our lives is not in kind. The Vedanta entirely denies such ideas as that animals are separate from men and that they were made and created by God to be used for our food. This is the prevalent idea. Now, Swamiji takes up a side of it. Some people have been kind enough to start an anti-vivisection society. You know what is vivisection? When we start studying biology, we take a frog and cut it. And through that frog we want to study what we are, what life is. Then we proceed. We catch hold of a monkey, drill a hole in his brain, put sulfuric acid there to see what part of the body moves, to understand our brain centers, which brain centers controls which part of the body. To study that, we take an animal and do it for him. That is called vivisection. Now some people think it is cruel. So they started an anti-vivisection society. Swamiji said, kind enough to start an anti-vivisection society. I asked a member, why do you think, my friend, that it is quite lawful to kill animals for food and not to kill one or two for scientific experiments? He replied, vivisection is most horrible, but animals have been given to us for food. Oneness includes all animals. See, practical Vedanta. I will quote here one example of a British doctor working in South Africa. And because he was working in all the common people there, he got infected very badly. And there were worms in his legs, wound and worms. And so many worms that they climb on each other. And then they fall down. He used to pick them up and keep them back on his wound. They have equal right to live as much as I have. Practical Vedanta. If man's life is immortal, so also is the animals. Practical Vedanta. Practical Vedanta, basically the change of ideas first. And then only it will come in our so-called practical world. Change of ideas, change of thinking, change of consciousness, resulting in the change of practical life. That is practical Vedanta. So Swamiji is discussing it here. Now Swamiji proceeds. If man's life is immortal, so also is the animals. The difference is only in degree and not in kind. The manifestation is less or more. The amoeba, the Swamiji goes to that length now. Amoeba is the smallest life, that is amoeba. The amoeba and I are the same. The difference is only in degree. And from the standpoint of the highest life, all these differences vanish. That is another thing. Sri Ramakrishna has given an example. We see ants, we see men, we see camels. Suppose we climb in Calcutta, there is an Octoloni monument. Suppose we climb the top of that, will we see the difference? Will the camel and ant not appear same to us from that height? So, from the standpoint of the highest life means life of Brahman. I am all. All these differences vanish. A man may see, and Swamiji makes us see that. A man may see a great deal of difference between grass and a little tree. But if you mount very high, the grass and the highest tree will appear much the same. So from the standpoint of the highest ideal, which is Vedanta, the lowest animal and the highest man are the same. If you believe there is a God, real God, the animals and the highest creatures must be the same. A God who is partial to his children called men and cruel to his children called brute beasts is worse than a demon. Vedanta. Listen to practical Vedanta from Swamiji. Completely revolutionizes our ideas that God is a demon who treats men specially and animals differently. I would rather die 100 times than worship such a God. My whole life would be a fight with such a God. But there is no difference. And those who say there is are irresponsible. They do not know what they are talking about. Irresponsible, heartless people who do not know. Three things. Irresponsible, heartless, and do not know. If heart is there, they would have felt it. Here is a case of the word practical used in a wrong sense. What is practical? Which I like is practical. Now Swamiji, you see, the sign of a great man is to accept his own weakness. Swamiji says, I myself may not be a very strict vegetarian, but I understand the idea. When I eat meat, I know it is wrong. Even if I am bound to eat it, why it, she is explaining. If I am bound to eat it under certain circumstances, I know it is cruel. I must not drag my ideal down to the actual and apologize for my weak conduct in this way. The ideal is not to eat flesh, not to injure any being, for all animals are my brothers. Practical Vedanta, please. If you can think of them as your brothers, you have made a little headway towards the brotherhood of all souls. Little headway. Not to speak of the brotherhood of man. There is a lot of talk about brotherhood of man. So I said that is very ordinary idea. Brotherhood of all life. Brotherhood of the entire universe is the final goal. That is child's play, the brotherhood of man. You generally find that this is not very acceptable to many. That thing comes again because it teaches them to give up the actual and go higher up to the ideal. Practical Vedanta means you have to give up your actual and go to the ideal, and we do not want that. But if you bring out a theory which is reconciled with their present conduct, they regard it as entirely practical. Now, why this happens? Swamiji psychologically analyzes. There is this strongly conservative tendency in human nature. That is called conservatism, tamogud. We do not like to move one step forward, changing ourselves, in evolving. I think of mankind just as I read of persons who become frozen in snow. All such, they say, want to go to sleep. And if you try to drag them up, they say, let me sleep. It is so beautiful to sleep in the snow. And they die there in that sleep. That is what conservatism is leading us. We die spiritually. So is our nature. That is what we are doing all our life, getting frozen from the feet upwards and yet wanting to sleep. Therefore, you must struggle toward the ideal. And if a man comes who wants to bring that ideal down to your level and teach a religion that does not carry that highest ideal, do not listen to him. To me, that is an impracticable religion. But if a man teaches a religion which presents the highest ideal, I am ready for him. Practical Vedanta, please. Beware when anyone is trying to apologize for sense vanities and sense weaknesses. If anyone wants to preach that way to us, poor sense-bound clods of earth, that is what we are. Poor sense-bound clods of earth. As we have made ourselves, by following that teaching, we shall never progress. I have seen many of these things. I have had some experiences of the world, and my country is the land where religious sects grow like mushrooms. Every year new sects arise. But one thing I have marked, that it is only those that never want to reconcile the man of flesh with the man of truth that makes progress. Wherever there is this false idea of reconciling fleshly vanities with the higher ideals, of dragging down God to the level of man, there comes decay. Man should not be degraded to worldly slavery, but should be raised up to God. This is practical Vedanta. At the same time, that is Swamiji's wonderful nature. Swamiji has said, no difference in kind. Lower truth to higher truth. So to put up the ideal, he said, Vedanta does not believe in sin. But now he says, people who believe in sin, are they bad? No. At the same time, there is another side to the question. That is the practical Vedanta, please. We must not look down with contempt on others. All of us are going towards the same goal. The difference between weakness and strength is one of degree. The difference between virtue and vice is one of degree. The difference between heaven and hell is one of degree. The difference between life and death is one of degree. All differences in this world are of degree and not of kind, because oneness is the secret of everything. So that Vedantic oneness is teaching us this, all is one, which manifests itself either as thought or life or soul or body, and the difference is only in degree. As such, we have no right to look down with contempt upon those who are not developed exactly in the same degree as we are. Condemn none. If you can stretch out a helping hand, do so. If you cannot, hold your hands, bless your brothers and let them go their own way. This very important way of teachers of Vedanta. If you force your ideals on others, you are not practical. If you can raise a man to go forward in his own way, then you are helping him. Otherwise, as Swamiji has said here in other place, hands off. Give him freedom. See, Swamiji's practical Vedanta, all-sided. And that is what Swamiji said, it must pervade every sphere of life. Dragging down and condemning is not the way to work. Never is work accomplished in that way. We spend our energies in condemning others. Criticism and condemnation is a vain way of spending our energy. For in the long run we come to learn that all are seeing the same thing, are more or less approaching the same ideal, and that most of our differences are merely differences of expression. In this way, Swamiji explained the Christian idea. Take the idea of sin. I was telling you just now the Vedantic idea of it, and the other idea is that man is a sinner. They are practically the same. Only the one takes the positive and the other the negative side. One shows to man his strength and the other his weakness. There may be weakness, says the Vedanta, but never mind, we want to grow. Disease was found out as soon as man was born. Everyone knows his disease. It requires no one to tell us what our diseases are. But thinking all the time that we are diseased will not cure us. Medicine is necessary. We may forget anything outside. We may try to become hypocrites to the external world, but in our heart of hearts we all know our weaknesses. But, says the Vedanta, being reminded of weakness does not help much. Give strength, and strength does not come by thinking of weakness all the time. Practical Vedanta. The remedy for weakness is not brooding over weakness, but thinking of strength. Teach men of the strength that is already within them. Instead of telling them that they are sinners, the Vedanta takes the opposite position and says, you are pure and perfect, and what you call sin does not belong to you. It belongs to mine, not to you. Sins are very low degrees of self-manifestation. Manifest yourself in a higher degree. Oh, beautiful practical Vedanta. That is the one thing to remember. All of us can do that. Never say no. Never say I cannot, for you are infinite. Practical Vedanta is to think that we are infinite. Every time, even time and space are as nothing compared with your nature. You are infinite. Practical Vedanta. You can do anything and everything. You are almighty by real nature. And you are manifesting that to the degree possible. These are the principles of ethics. But we shall now come down lower and work out the details. Principles of ethics. We shall see how this Vedanta can be carried into our everyday life, the city life, the country life, the national life, and the home life of every nation. That is practical. For if a religion cannot help man wherever he may be, wherever he stands, it is not of much use. It will remain only a theory for the chosen few. Religion to help mankind must be ready and able to help him in whatever condition he is, in servitude or in freedom, in the depths of degradation or on the heights of purity. Everywhere, equally, it should be able to come to his aid. The principles of Vedanta or the ideal of religion or whatever you may call it Principles of Vedanta, other name ideals of religion, or whatever you may call it, will be fulfilled by its capacity for performing this great function, helping every man wherever he is to rise higher. Again he comes back to the ideal of faith in ourselves is of the greatest help to us. Then only you can grow. If faith in ourselves had been more extensively taught and practiced, I am sure a very large portion of the evils and miseries that we have would have vanished. Throughout the history of mankind, if any motive power has been more potent than another in the lives of all great men and women, it is that of faith in themselves. Born with the consciousness that they were to be great, they became great. Let a man go down as low as possible. There must come a time when out of sheer desperation he will take an upward curve and will learn to have faith in himself. This is a wonderful idea. The vilest of creatures will have at one, because he is divine, because his real nature is divine. By error he is going down. A point must come when he will take the upward turn. Knowing this, what we should do? The earlier we take the upward turn, we are wiser. In Hindi, I will put it in a way. आदमी को झक मार के ऊपर जाना ही पड़ेगा. He can't help it. This is the Vedantic view, a practical Vedantist view. And therefore, the great men can never condemn anyone. A charge was leveled on Sri Ramakrishna by the leaders of maybe Brahma Samaj or anybody. And Professor Max Muller has replied to that beautifully. That Sri Ramakrishna did not hate prostitutes. Why should he hate anyone when he is seeing God in all? And he saw actually. There was a famous prostitute in Calcutta called Ramani. And she came to Kali temple to worship. And Sri Ramakrishna is saying, "Oh mother, today you have come in this way." So that is what he saw. How can he condemn anybody? Let a man go down as low as possible. There must come a time when out of sheer desperation he will take an upward curve. And will learn to have faith in himself. That is the first point when to come up. Faith in himself that I can rise the higher. But it is better for us that we should know it from the very first, yes. Why should we have all these bitter experiences in order to gain faith in ourselves? We can see that all the difference between man and man is owing to the existence or non-existence of faith in himself. That is the great difference between man and man. Faith in ourselves will do everything. I experienced it in my own life, and I am still doing so. And as I grow older, that faith becoming stronger and stronger. Now he repeats that atheist position with a little different words, but can be explained only basis of the first words. He is an atheist who does not believe in himself. The old religions said that he was an atheist who did not believe in God. But to understand this, what Swamiji told, a God personal outside of myself. That is what is mentioned here. When people believe in God, they believe in such a God. Oh God, Oh, God is not in me, He is outside. And He will help me. That is an atheism. Because the real nature of God is that He is your reality. It is only one in the world. Practical Vedanta, please. The new religion says, new means Swamiji's practical Vedanta, that he is the atheist who does not believe in himself. But, now Swamiji explains, but it is not selfish faith. Because the Vedanta again is the doctrine of oneness. It means faith in all, because you are all. Because there is no difference between you and me. If I have faith in myself, I have faith in you. Because you and I are same. That is the Swamiji's definition of. Generally our faith in ourselves is ego. Faith in my intellect, faith in my body, that is not faith in myself. If I have faith in myself, I have faith in everybody, because the same self is in everybody. See the dimensions of practical Vedanta? Now, the faith in oneself and faith in all, that they have the capacity to rise, is makes Swami Vivekananda. It means faith in all because you are all. Love for yourself means love for all, love for animals, love for everything, for you are all one. First you take the step of animal and then says everything, even the inanimate objects. Love them not as separate objects, love them as yourself, love them as God. It is the great faith which will make the world better, I am sure of that. He is the highest man who can say with truth, I know all about myself. We do not know anything about ourselves. Do you know how much energy, how many powers, how many forces are still lurking behind that frame of yours? You are infinite. What scientist has known all that is in man? Millions of years have passed since man first came here, and yet but one infinitesimal part of his powers has been manifest. Therefore, you must not say that you are weak. So, second point, you may say, derived point, faith in oneself is the point, but a derived point that I am not weak. How do you know what possibilities lie behind the degradation on the surface? You know but little of that which is within you, or behind you is the ocean of infinite power and blessedness. Infinite power and blessedness belongs to Atman, and the Atman is one Atman in all the world. So behind your appearance of this body and mind, there is that infinite ocean, and you have to have faith in that, and then only you will grow. You will manifest the power and blessedness more and more, and you can help others also. Now, Swamiji comes to the second phase of practical Vedanta. This Atman is first to be heard of. Here Swamiji has shifted himself a little from Chandogya to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Now, how many days we have to hear is a question. Some people I know wrongly think they are heard enough, now let them do manan. Swamiji says here, hear day and night that you are that soul. Manan means repeat it to yourself day and night till it enters into your very veins. Manan is this. Manan is not cogitation. Manan means the truth which you have heard, let it enter every thought process, feeling, everything. See now Swamiji's language of Manan. Repeat it to yourself day and night till it enters into your very veins, till it tingles in every drop of blood, till it is in your flesh and bone. That is Manan. Let the whole body be full of that one ideal. What one ideal? I am the birthless, the deathless, the blissful, the omniscient, the omnipotent, ever glorious soul. This is practical Vedanta. Impress upon yourself that you are the reality. Think on it day and night. Think on it till it becomes part and parcel of your life. Till what time? When you are filled up with this. Let me point out something in my personal life. Maybe after staying for 8 or 10 years with my Guruji, I asked him one day that I have no experience till now. He said, do you mean experience is like pumpkin and gourd? Like that you will see them? And then he asked me, tell me, your thought world has changed or not completely? These two words I used to hear from him. Thought world or idea world? Your idea world, your thought world, what it means? Thinking about everything in life, whether business, accounts, proofreading, what and what not. Has your thought world changed completely or not? And with a little introspection, I had to say, yes, it has changed totally. Do you think in the same way as you are thinking in your house? Not at all. That is what Swamiji is telling. Then my Guruji said, now you will have experience. Shravan, Manan and Nididhyasan. That is the second phase of practical Vedanta which Swamiji is telling. This is practical Vedanta, please. Now Swamiji comes to the third. Meditate upon it, and out of that will come work. What is meditation? What is meditation? Vedantic meditation. It is called Nididhyasan. It is not imagining some object and thinking of something, not at all. The attempt to experience is called meditation. You have heard the truth and you have thought about it to the extent that your whole life, thinking, feeling, will, everything is filled up with that. Now try to experience that. That is called Nididhyasan in Vedanta. And that is what Swamiji means here by meditate upon it, and out of that will come work. When your personality will be changed, then work will come. Transfiguration of personality. Out of the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaketh. Swamiji takes a quotation. And then he adds his own. And out of the fullness of the heart, the hand worketh also. Fullness of the heart, when the experience is complete, it will automatically come in your behavior. You need not bother about it. Action will come. Fill yourself with the ideal. Whatever you do, think well on it. All your actions will be magnified, transformed, deified by the very power of the thought. Deified means made divine. Magnified in strength. Transformed in consciousness level. Deified means made divine by the power of thought. Mana. If matter is powerful, thought is omnipotent. Subtle is always more powerful than the gross. Bring this thought to bear upon your life. Fill yourself with the thought of your almightiness, your majesty, and your glory. That is meditation. Would to God, no superstitions had been put into your head. Would to God we had not been surrounded from our birth by all these superstitious influences and paralyzing ideas of our weakness and wiseness. Would to God that mankind had an easier path through which to attain to the noblest and highest truths. But man had to pass through all this. Do not make the path more difficult for those who are coming after you. Now Swamiji knows something. These are sometimes terrible doctrines to teach. Because of our conservatism, because of our not believing in ourselves, these are terrible things to teach. I know people who get frightened at these ideas. Was Swamiji himself not frightened in the beginning? He said, God is the creator, I am the created being. But Sri Ramakrishna transformed it. And with this transformation, Swamiji is talking now. But for those who want to be practical, this is the first thing to learn. So practical Vedanta starts from hearing of the truth, thinking of the truth, trying to realize the truth. And the truth is that everybody is divine. So the second phase of practical Vedanta, Swamiji is telling here. But for those who want to be practical Vedantist, you may add, this is the first thing to learn. Never tell yourselves or others that you are weak. Do good if you can, but do not injure the world. You know in your inmost heart that many of your limited ideas, this humbling of yourself and praying and weeping to imaginary beings are superstition. Beings imaginary because you have not seen them and you are praying to them. Tell me one case where these prayers have been answered. Not that they have not been answered. Tell me one case where these prayers have been answered. All the answers that came were from your own hearts. You know there are no ghosts. But no sooner are you in the dark than you feel little creepy sensation. That is so because in our childhood we have had all these fearful ideas put into our heads. But do not teach these things to others. But do not teach these things to others through fear of society and public opinion. They like us to tell like that. Through fear of incurring the hatred of friends, or for fear of losing cherished superstition. So next point what Swamiji is preaching? Fearlessness. Be master of all these. What is there to be taught more in religion than the oneness of the universe and faith in oneself? So two principles Swamiji is telling. Faith in oneself, oneness of the universe. Now this oneness will give us certain more points. Our time is up. I did not notice the flow of time. We'll pick it up on the next turn. Om Paratatve Sada Lino Ramakrishna Samagyaya Yo Dharma Sthapana Rato Viresham Tam Namamyaham Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanavastu.